Let's talk about this address today, and joining me to help do that is retired Navy SEAL and U.S. Senate candidate for Missouri, Eric Greitens. Eric, always great to have you on the show. I want to ask you about the speech, and believe it or not, even a broken clock is right twice a day, so I think Joe Biden was actually correct about something. Let's play some tape, and then I want to get your reaction. Here's Biden.
Yes, sir.
We succeeded in what we set out to do in Afghanistan over a decade ago. Then we stayed for another decade. It was time to end this war.
Eric, he's right there. Your thoughts?
He's right about this fact. You should end endless wars, but you should do it in the way that President Trump demonstrated, with a policy of peace through strength. President Trump defeated ISIS. President Trump killed terrorists like Qasem Soleimani, and the result was that he achieved historic peace deals in the Abraham Accords. By contrast, what you've seen from Joe Biden is a policy of weakness, and that's why we're in this situation in Afghanistan.
Right, 100%. And believe me, I think he's only right on that narrow aspect. And by the way, he's right in retrospect. Let's not forget that when bin Laden was killed, he was the vice president of the United States, Joe Biden was. And at that time, he absolutely wanted to stay in Afghanistan. He's been completely wrong. He did not want to kill bin Laden, by the way, wrong there. And he did want to stay in Afghanistan. So I'm not at all negating his record of wrongness. I'm just saying on this point, though, I think we have to admit this is a good thing to be out of Afghanistan. Let me ask you this, Eric, as a former Navy SEAL, in terms of the catastrophe of the evacuation, what is your assessment of the operational evacuation, the mistakes made?
Yeah, well, first of all, this was complete dereliction of duty and failure on the part of Joe Biden. You talked about how Ronald Reagan took responsibility. A president from the state of Missouri, Harry Truman, had a famous sign on his desk. It said, "The buck stops here. Responsibility lies with the commander-in-chief." And he is responsible for a disgraceful exit from Afghanistan, where we abandoned our fellow Americans in Afghanistan. He is responsible for gross negligence and incompetence when we armed the Taliban instead of destroying our military equipment. Gross negligence when we gave up Bagram Air Base, and also disgracefully, these guys handed a list of our Afghan allies and gave it to the Taliban, who are now going house to house in Kabul, killing people who work with Americans. Absolute incompetence here.
So many mistakes made, and mistakes that can't be blamed on the fog of war, because he had months and months to prepare. And by the way, was handed a very good preparation plan by Kash Patel at the Trump administration. Literally gave him a blueprint. Here's how you get out safely and effectively. That was tossed aside, and instead they did it by the seat of their pants. Eric, I do want to ask you this last question. You're running for Senate. I think you would make an incredible United States Senator. What will you do in the Senate to make sure that people like that loser Mark Milley are held responsible for these kinds of disastrous mistakes in Afghanistan?
Yeah. So first of all, three really important things I'm going to do as a United States Senator. Number one, no more woke generals and admirals. We don't need woke social justice warriors. We need war fighters. War fighters who are focused on the key missions of the U.S. military, which is to kill our enemies, to win our wars, and to deter our adversaries. We can no longer have generals and admirals who are pushing things like critical race theory, who are pushing leftist ideological priorities. And Steve, I know you have so many veterans and military families who watch your show. They know that every captain who's going to be a general in the Army, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, every colonel, that is, or every captain in the Navy who's going to become an admiral, if you're going to become a flag officer, you have to be confirmed by the United States Senate. I and other senators need to stand up and make sure we say loud and clear, no more woke generals and admirals. Number two, what we're going to do is make sure that people recognize that every single penny that goes into the boots on every Lance Corporal who serves, that goes into every aircraft carrier we put to sea, every penny is paid for by American tax dollars. And we're going to make very clear that there will be no more money spent on these leftist priorities. And finally, Steve, and perhaps most importantly, we need to have combat-tested, battle-hardened leaders who ask the hard questions about our mission. Our mission in Afghanistan should have been to kill al-Qaeda, to kill the terrorists who brought September 11th here, to kill those who posed a threat to our fellow Americans, not to engage in nation building. If any young man or woman in the state of Missouri around the country is going to sign up to serve, they need to know they're going for the right mission overseas.
Amen to that. Yeah, the mission purpose can't be vague, and it also can't be shifting, which is what we've seen for 2 decades, unfortunately. And it put a lot of people like you put your life at risk. Some people paid the ultimate sacrifice. Unfortunately, these 13 just did. Eric Greitens, it's always great to see you. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Appreciate you, Steve. Thank you, sir.